Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship, and we're just gonna do another reaction today. My name is Cam, aka Korean Atlanta Mentorship, according to some of you in the comments, and we're gonna react to a video about Canada. Wouldn't it be crazy if this channel just grew just because like I made reactions to videos about Canada? That would be so insane. I've never even been to Canada, but like I made a reaction about financially paralyzed Canadians living paycheck to paycheck, and this has been one of my best performing videos recently. 596 more views than usual. All right, so that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna react to a video about Canada, and this one is called "How to F Up a Country." How to F Up a Country. It's about Canada. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play it and see what's going on.
Canada is in deep trouble, and according to their Prime Minister,
we made some mistakes.
Justin Trudeau's approval rating has dropped from 65% in September of 2016 to 28% this month. And next year is an election year where Trudeau seeks to pull off what his father couldn't.
Didn't he resign? I could have sworn he actually resigned. But let me just do this. Justin Trudeau. Yeah, I believe he resigned. So, but would remain prime minister until a new leader. Okay, that's interesting. But he did resign. So, um, wow. Okay. I wonder why he did that. Yeah, I'll let you make up your own reasons for why you think he resigned. But yes, I don't think he's going for re-election. So I don't know if this is outdated. This is only a month old, but let's keep playing.
Be re-elected for a fourth consecutive term. It's clear though that Trudeau messed up, and now Canadians simply can't afford to live.
Currently living in her van after she was forced out of her apartment because the cost of rent climbed.
There's an immigration crisis, housing crisis, and a skilled labor shortage crisis. The repercussions of Trudeau's decisions are real. The rental wage has risen significantly. In 2023, the rental wage in Toronto was estimated at $36.50 per hour, far above the minimum wage of $15.50.
Yeah, welcome to any big city, right? Oh no. Same with Los Angeles, which is what I'm more familiar with. Although I've never rented an apartment in the city of Atlanta. I don't think I've even lived in the city of Atlanta. So this channel must be a fraud because it's Korean Atlanta mentorship, but I think I live in Metro Atlanta. That's what it refers to, not the city.
Meaning you need to earn over double the minimum wage to survive in Toronto. But that's just scratching the surface here. This story goes much deeper the further we get into this video, and as we uncover what's really happening in Canada and where Trudeau lost his support. What we need to understand first is that the way Canada is structured is a recipe for disaster. First and foremost, the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the government surrounding him don't have ultimate power over the country, since Canada operates under a system of government where legislative powers are divided between the federal parliament, the provincial legislatures under it, and the municipalities under that. Basically, federal powers include national concerns such as defense, trade and commerce, banking, criminal law, and immigration, which we will get back to, but provincial powers encompass areas like property and civil rights, education, health services, and other local matters. Most important for this story, though, are the municipalities that have their own authority, including creating and enforcing zoning laws within their jurisdiction. These laws regulate.
Wait a minute. I'm just hearing like the same kind of or similar structure to the US government, which is federal, state, county, local. So I'm not really sure what the deal is, but that doesn't seem that different when he explains it that way. Take a look at this one. What the F happened to Canada? Well, at least we aren't Canada. Oh man, that's a brutal title. But let's keep watching.
Regulate land use, determining how properties in different zones can be developed or used. What this means is that if the federal government decides to, let's say, increase the number of immigrants coming into Canada, it's the job of the municipalities to build enough housing to accommodate them. This works brilliantly in a fantasy world where every single municipality's councillors get informed exactly how many immigrants they will have to accommodate and have the competence and tax dollars to build enough homes to house them.
Wait a minute. Is he arguing that the federal government should build housing? Okay, that's interesting because in the US, we I don't think we have any sort of system like that where we say, "Hey, we're bringing in 5 million immigrants, we need to build housing for them." and then expect the federal government to do that. So I think, in what country does do that? I guess let's ask that. Or is this just like, hey, they should do that in theory, and that's why we think there's a lack of housing? Probably because they just don't build enough housing, right? It's like in California, there's a ton of land. They just don't build housing. That's why the price of the homes are sky high.
And as it turns out, that's too big of an ask. See, it's important to understand that Canada historically has been very much in favor of immigration, and Canadians believed it strengthened their country. This is partly because they have a merit-based immigration system, where any migrants wishing to move to Canada must pass the merit standards, including a language and prerequisite class.
Yeah, I don't think in the US we care if you speak English or not, which is very interesting, right? So I actually looked up the differences between like the Canadian and the American immigration system. And American immigration system is they put more emphasis on apparently family reunification, right? Family reunification if you have a certain job, but Canadian is like, hey, it's kind of like things you'd find on a resume. It's like, dude, how many languages do you speak? Do you speak English? Do you speak French? If you speak both, that's fantastic. And then, there's no emphasis on family as far as I'm aware, right? But in the US, it's all about family. So, think about like the Fast and Furious movies. If they were all immigrants, so would they do street racing in America? Because it's about family. Let's keep watching.
So they can be sure that only people useful to the Canadian economy get in. Throughout history, Canada has relied on immigration to grow their economy and to populate more of their country. So immigration is nothing new, and it's always been a great thing for Canada. Therefore, this constellation of government powers wasn't a problem historically. But Trudeau turned the flow of migrants to the max, but the municipalities did little to accommodate.
So honestly, I don't think it's the federal government's job to create and build housing. And I think he's going to talk about how maybe the private sector, if you rely on the market or the private sector, that's not going to work. I have a feeling he's going to say that, but let's keep watching.
Them. They primarily left it up to the private sector to do something about it, and that's a recipe for disaster when these municipalities also had zoning laws that stated only single-family houses could be built. No apartment complexes allowed. Now,
You guys ever heard of Caprini Green? Caprini Green. let me look at a Caprini Green, right? This is actually government built housing in Chicago. And I don't know if it's federal government or city government, but apparently it was so bad that they had to tear it down in how many years? I don't know. But in 1995, the Chicago Housing Authority began tearing down dilapidated mid and high-rise buildings. So I can't even say this. Cabrini Green was home to 15,000 people, mostly living in high and mid-rise apartment buildings. Crime and neglect created hostile living conditions for many residents, and it became a metonym for problems associated with public housing in the United States. Now, maybe my mind is making connections that shouldn't be made, but I feel like this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, but let's keep going. So I think he might have identified the problem, but maybe not the solution. And sometimes people are really good at identifying problems, but I don't think they know the solution.
what does this create? Well, urban sprawl for one, but secondly, a bunch of luxury homes no average Canadian can afford. Since why would developers build affordable housing when they could make a much bigger profit making luxury houses for investors?
So this is actually the same situation in the United States. Developers don't build starter homes here either because it's simply not profitable for them. And I actually live in a new construction home, 3 bed, 2 bath. I think no, 3 bed, 3 bath actually, 2.5. And my mortgage is only like $900 a month, but this is still a McMansion. But good thing I bought it in an area that is going through development, but I bought it at the beginning. So, quick tip, pro tip, if you want to know where to buy real estate, but you don't know anything about real estate, I would look towards like empty retail stores that are brand new. Like, huh, is this a good area? and it's like no customers there, new Walmart or like new Home Depot's like, oh, that might want to buy a home there, might want to think about it. That's a pro tip, but I'm not giving you any advice. But let's keep watching.
And that's where we get to the next big problem here. Domestic and international investors have been able to buy these houses as well. And if you allow investors to buy up single family housing, there's no real limit to how high these prices can get.
Well, actually, there is because it's determined by the marketplace, right? So this is why I can't go to the Midwest and buy, very cheap homes and buy the housing supply and somehow it's going to be worth $1 million. There has to be demand for your product too. Now, the way that you increase the price of anything is, basic economics, you decrease the supply and increase the demand. And because a lot of people want to live in those big cities and there's a and I don't know how Canadian geography exactly works, but I'm assuming that it's like probably like Australia where there's just like a couple major city centers and everything else is empty. And that's the way that the society works. That's probably why the housing is so expensive. In fact, I was actually looking at Canadian real estate here in Zillow, right? I found a very interesting one. 323 sold for 1.1 million Canadian dollars. And, this just does not, it looks like a typical home here in the United States. No garage though, that's a negative. But it's 5 bed and 4 bath, and I want to just show you something right here. Same thing happening in California, right? So take a look at this. 2010, 150,000 Canadian dollars. 2023, 1.1 million Canadian dollars. Like that I feel like that's even crazier than the United States, right? I should have just bought Canadian housing in like 2010. Would have been a million gajillionaire by now, right? But again, probably the reason why it's happening is because of a housing shortage, right? If you don't build enough homes and you have too many people, then you have a supply demand imbalance, not just being an investor. Because again, if it were so easy to just buy real estate, then you wouldn't have tired landlords or people who lost money doing flips, right? You just being an investor doesn't make the price of something go up. I could buy all that housing in the Midwest and it's not going to raise up in price unless there's an actual increase in demand for your product, right? That's kind of a I feel like that's a very I don't even know if uneducated is the right word, but investors simply buying homes is not going to make the price go up.
Which is part of the reason behind this chart. Home prices increase exponentially while the disposable income is left behind. Now, I've mentioned immigration a couple of times now, and it's time we address the elephant in the room. Immigration is what Trudeau considered a miscalculation, as he not only let in millions of immigrants looking for permanent residency, he also let in millions of people seeking temporary residency. And he kind of forgot to account for these temporary residents, so suddenly there were way too many people in.
I don't think he forgot to account for it. It's just more like he said something that made everybody feel good. And when the Canadian population heard that when he was probably getting elected, they're like, yeah, yeah, Justin, we love immigrants. And then once he brought too many of them, then you kind of got like the situation to Simpsons. I don't know if you've ever seen that episode where they put a bear tax in for whatever reason. It was like 5 cents, and then somehow it like led to scapegoating immigrants. You ever see that episode? Didn't the Simpsons do everything? Like they predicted everything. That episode was like what, 1995, 6? The episode about scapegoating immigrants because they put a tax on hunting bears. It was like weird, but it's like this is modern day society.
in Canada and too little housing. But that's only part of the story, because he also didn't close a very clever loophole these temporary residents exploited. Now, to be clear, when we discuss temporary residents, we are primarily discussing international students and temporary foreign workers. So here's what they did. The international students enrolled in prerequisite programs such as language courses and were granted study permits to work off campus. Some students, though, exploited this by working without completing the required courses. Then we have the temporary foreign workers, who are allowed into the country when the temporary foreign worker program permits Canadian employers to hire them for temporary roles when qualified Canadians are unavailable. However, some employers misuse this program to hire foreign workers for positions that could be filled by Canadians, often because they could offer lower wages and poorer working conditions.
I think that's what we do here in the US, especially in like factory farms. But I might be wrong about that. But I feel like that's kind of like a standard but wrong practice everywhere. So I don't think that's unique to Canada.
So Canada ended up with millions of temporary residents who were happy to work for minimum wage, pushing out the Canadians from the job market. Which brings me to the next thing that doesn't really make sense, the labor shortage. It's kind of strange how a country with so many recent arrivals can have a labor shortage, but it's true. Canadian manufacturing has experienced skill scarcity for years. Its recent growth is unparalleled though. The percentage of manufacturers reporting understaffing increased to over 80% in 2022, up from 39% in 2016, meaning the labor shortage has more than doubled in the last decade. So you're caught up to speed now.
Well, did they have their own version of Mike Rowe promoting dirty jobs in Canada? I don't know. Is there a Canadian Mike Rowe? Well, let's just keep going.
There are too many people, too little housing, a labor shortage, and loopholes that should have been closed ages ago. So how does Trudeau plan on solving this to win the election and get Canada back on the right track? Well, Trudeau unveiled a housing plan a few months ago and an immigration plan a few weeks ago. And it's fair to say the Canadians are not happy. First, the housing plan. The goal is to make more affordable housing, so they've introduced several measures, like the Housing Accelerator Fund, a $4 billion initiative. With it, they're targeting the missing middle housing, think duplexes, triplexes, and mid-sized apartment complexes, that can bridge the gap between luxury homes and crowded apartment buildings. But the catch, municipalities need to actually implement these policies, and that could take years. And so far, Vancouver, Toronto, and Edmonton are the only municipalities that have loosened the zoning laws for single-family housing. But only Edmonton allows apartment complexes, and small ones at that. The rest have simply said, you know what, it's okay you build maybe 2 houses on your plot, maybe 4, but that's stretching it. Like, I don't understand the resistance against apartment complexes. I mean, they're in a housing crisis.
I wonder where this dude is from. I'm really curious because his English accent sounds it's fluent, but I wonder if he's European. Yeah, I'm just curious. I know this has nothing to do with the video, but I honestly think it should really be up to the city's local government to decide what they want for housing. And I think a question we have to ask is if there's only, I've seen like a map of Australia, how there's only like couple of city centers and then everything else is like barren land. I heard that in Canada, and I might be wrong about this because obviously I've never been to Canada. Canada has a ton of land, but their population is less than of California. So something's I feel like it's missing. I feel like this analysis is kind of too simplified and is arguing for that the federal government should be the one in charge of building housing. And again, because of what I know, and I'm not an expert at this, obviously not, but just kind of, making some connections. I don't know if you want to put the government in charge of housing, whether it's city or federal, right? I mean, what's the resistance to if the private sector can only build single family homes? That's the fault of the city government, but it's not necessarily a fault of the private sector. You got to just kind of create the incentives to build those homes, right? Like, it makes sense, but or else you might have Cabrini Green. Cabrini Green. All right, let's just keep watching this, and looking at this has made me think, man, I really, I really should have invested in Canada. This is Surrey, British Columbia. 150 to 1.2 million dollars. I would have been a rich SOB. All right.
Wouldn't apartment complexes be a great way to get the most possible housing in the smallest possible area to prevent further urban sprawl? It doesn't make sense to me, but anyway, I regress. Next, they've removed the goods and services tax on new rental construction. The goal is to make it more financially appealing to create affordable housing rather than homes for wealthy investors. And they extended the federal ban on foreign investment in Canadian housing by 2 years to January 1st, 2027. Now to the immigration plan. Trudeau's government is pulling back. They've announced plans to reduce immigration targets over the next few years, essentially halting population growth for 2 years. It's also worth mentioning that they expect 5 million temporary visa holders to just leave next year.
Well, are they going to? And this is voluntarily.
Entirely. I mean, I guess we'll have to see how that turns.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like if you want to, if your tenant doesn't pay you on time and you expect them to pay you on time, good luck on that one, right? That's why you have eviction court and you got to force them out.
Out, but anyway, they're also tightening eligibility requirements for international students and foreign workers to ensure that only those who meet Canada's needs get in. They
Does that mean that if you have a lot of money, like a lot of money, you'll get in? Because I think that's how U.S. universities work.
will also prioritize immigrants with the necessary skills to help solve the labor shortage. Finally, they've started to address the loopholes, like cracking down on misrepresentation in the temporary foreign worker program and reworking how study permits are issued. But here's the real question. Is this enough? These policies sound decent, at least on paper, but the housing crisis didn't happen overnight. Municipalities still need to overhaul outdated zoning laws, and if the comments on Trudeau's YouTube video explaining the immigration plan is anything to go by, the upcoming election might be his last. Thanks for watching. My name is Oliver, and this is the first time you probably see my face, and I just wanted to give some words on like why I'm showing my face for the first time here on the OBF channel. And honestly, it's just because I wanted to try something new, and I'm finally comfortable with showing my face on my channel. So hopefully you guys like it. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think. But yeah, I'll try this for a while to see if I like it and if you guys like it. So other than that, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
But where are you from? Your accent is peculiar. Oh, right here. You know it's bad when you made even the chillest Canadians angry. Yep, this is an identical problem in Australia. So, okay. Um, I live in, oh man. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So here's the thing. I honestly don't think this is really that good of a video. I feel like they're spotting the problems, but they're not able to come to logical conclusions of why those problems happened. So I could give this maybe like a 6 out of 10, to be honest. But I might do another reaction about, why living in Canada has become impossible. At least we are in Canada. That's a brutal title. Why Canada will lose the 2030s. Ooh, Canada is dying. Listen, there are all these Canadian. I got an endless supply of Canadian videos that I can watch, but I'll just watch this one for now. But I like the title. I just don't think the video itself was. It was It was okay, but I felt like it was telling us that we needed more federal government power, which is not what I expected, but that's okay because I'm open to hearing other people's ideas and videos. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. This is a Crane Atlanta mentorship. And yeah, just another video about Canada. And this is, well, you know what's going to be funny? I'll probably pump out like 10 more videos about Canada, and that's what will bring my channel to 1 million subs. Not velocity banking. Oh, paying off your mortgage in 4 years. Screw that. That nobody cares about that. But Canada, we got a sub tier channel. Right? And I've never even been there. All right, well that's it, folks. So I'll see you on the next video. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship.